Some days when you're out hunting for video games, everything just goes perfectly. The planets align and everything just comes together. Today was one of those days. This was a hunt that will live long in the memory. Retro Ghetto. Hi everybody, welcome back to the Retro Ghetto. Myself and Little Man are here at Stafford County Toy Fair. We've got the hookup this week. We are nice and early. We're in with the sellers. So yeah, we've pretty much got our pick of the bunch. So yeah, everyone's still setting up. We're trying not to get into people's way. But it does mean obviously that we get sort of like first dibs. So yeah, we're just floating around, me and Little Man having a look on what is Father's Day. What are you after today, mate?
I usually play
Lego and toys he plays with, so it sounds like a good deal to me. I'm after video games, so let's go. Obviously, one of the benefits of us being here super early is that we get to do quick laps, sniff out any video games that may be lurking about, and yeah, hopefully back them early deals. So at this point, myself and Ghetto Junior are walking around and we're seeing all the things that are getting put onto the stalls as they are being set up. Now, we're trying to be respectful. There's nothing worse, right, than when you're trying to get set up and people are asking you questions and grabbing your stuff. So we're just sort of casually walking around, seeing what's about. And one of the stalls that caught my eye was one that was already set up. There's a young lady there selling Lego minifigures. And yeah, Ghetto Junior did not need inviting twice. He saw them and he was straight up and he was digging through. And it was to him that I have to give a massive shout out to this first find. So there were some figures that were listed at £3 each, some that were at £2 each, and then there was like a box that just said £1 each, and I expected those to be the sort of like run-of-the-mill or just random pieces of Lego minifigures put together, right? And to my surprise, Ghetto Junior turned around and he was like, "Dad!" And in there was a Roman Lego minifigure. So yeah, viewers of the channel will know I am currently building a Lego army, and these figures are not cheap and they are not easy to come by. I think these were a part of, I think it was way back in season 4 of the sort of like blind bag for minifigures that you could get. So yeah, it's been quite a few years now, and these tend to sell anywhere between sort of like 12, 15 up to like 18 to 20 pounds depending on where you buy them for. So to find one of these for £1 was, yeah, an absolutely fantastic find. I also picked up another Cyclops because I do plan on having like a bit of a battle scene in here at some point when I have enough figures and maybe build a diorama. So yeah, £1 was an absolutely amazing start to the day, although it would end up costing me a bit more because in order to bribe Ghetto Junior to let me have this one, I did end up having to buy him a few figures later on. So we both ended up happy, and yeah, what a great start to the day, but it was about to get a lot better. So the reason that we were able to get in early before the crowds ascended was courtesy of my friend John over at Big Kid Collectibles. And as you'll be seeing on screen now, John has always got some of the best figures, toys, accessories and pure 90s nostalgia that you will see at any of these events. And the reason I went to see him is because we had a pre-arranged deal. I'd already agreed to sell John some of my Mezco figures, so some of my hip-hop toys, some of my Scarface, Tony Montana figures, and just a few things that I no longer have the space for to display and enjoy here in the 3.0. And that left me in a somewhat dangerous situation that I'm now at this retro fair with a handful of cash, and lo and behold, at the very next store to John's was a retro video game selection unlike any I've ever seen at one of these events. So yeah, rocking up just next door to John was Alex from Holy Grail Toys, and wow, what a selection. There's some games there that I've never seen in person. Just pure 16-bit goodness that you'd be lucky to find at a video game fair, let alone at a toy fair, and I had to indulge, right? Like I say, this is one of them games hunts where everything comes together. I'm stood there with a wad of cash, and yeah, there wasn't a lot of games, so I went in, right? I bought quite a few games, and let's go through them all, shall we? So the first one I want to highlight is a Mega Drive, just one of the cheaper titles that I picked up, one that I didn't already own, and that is Echo, The Tides of Time. This 1994 sequel to the original Echo release is an action-adventure game developed by Nova Trade. The Tides of Time continues a story from the first game, similar in terms of its gameplay, but with some new additions, including 2 new power-ups, the first being the Pulsar, which is like a multi-directional sonar attack, and there's also a Metasphere attack, which now allows Echo to transform into different animals, such as a jellyfish, a shark. Shame it can't transport this one into a good game. I'm probably being overly harsh. I've never actually played the sequel, but I was scarred as a child from the first Echo game. I remember the furore and the sort of like clamouring for Echo when it first got released, and it was one of the few games I was able to buy as a kid upon release, and we got it, and I must have swam around that original pool for hours and hours on end. There's no doubt it was a beautiful game, but I just don't think it explained what you were supposed to do. There might be a good game in there somewhere, but like I say, I've never really gone back to it. Such is my hatred that I have attached to Echo from my childhood. But yeah, apparently this one rebalanced some of those issues. I think it made some of the difficulty a little bit more accessible to people and maybe a little bit more child-friendly. And yeah, like I say, not the most expensive of games, but you know, I love collecting for Mega Drive, and like most Mega Drive collectors, I'm always drawn to blue spine Mega Drive games, so I was very happy to add this one to my collection. I now just need Echo Junior to complete the trilogy on the Mega Drive, but looking at the price, it's going to be a long time before I get to play that one. We will get back to more Mega Drive goodness, but right now I want to turn my attention to Super Nintendo. And we're going to look at the first of the Super Nintendo games here, and this is one that I've been after for quite some time. It's one of them that you do see every now and again, but it seems to keep going up in price, and I've never quite found it for a price that I want to pay until today, and that is Addams Family. This ocean-developed platformer was released in 1992 and based on the 1991 movie of the same name. You control Gomez Addams, and your mission is to rescue other Addams Family members from the clutches of Abigail Craven. This is a lot less linear approach to platforming than most games of this era. You kind of have the ability to freely move around the Addams Family mansion, exploring its many inside and outside areas, and eventually fighting bosses, each of which have taken a different family member hostage, and it's sort of then up to you to beat that boss and rescue each family member. It's really nice to add this one. I've already got Puggley's Scavenger Hunt. There is again a third entry in this series, but that one is a much more expensive title. That's Addams Family Values. One day I'll pick that up, of course, with me going for the full Super Nintendo set. But yeah, in terms of today, really happy to add the Addams Family to the collection. Right, okay, so now we start to get to the more expensive, more rare and hard to find titles for the Super Nintendo, and we're kicking that off with Operation Starfish. Even though it doesn't actually say so on the box, this is James Pond 3. The working title for this was actually James Pond 3 Splash Gordon, which I think is a better title, but I'm guessing due to copyright infringement, yeah, it had to be changed, so it's Operation Starfish. This game actually follows the blueprint of Super Mario World in many ways. You have like a larger overview, like a map of the region with different connected theme sections, including cheese, custard, ice cream, and various other food-related puns. And there's a lot of puns within this game. Some of the cheese levels are called things like Garden of Edam, and yeah, everyone loved the pun in the 90s, right? So yeah, you can imagine the sort of humour that is based within this one. The goal of each level is to locate and destroy communications beacons. They often won't show themselves until certain parameters of the level have been met, and it generally did get quite good feedback, this one. Total ranked this 99 of the top 100 Super Nintendo games. I think the general consensus was it's a good game, but the first two in the series were better, so read into that what you will if you've played those games. And yeah, just become a very uncommon one to find. It's certainly become more expensive in recent years as well, and yeah, very, very happy to be adding that to my collection. And speaking of uncommon games, this next one I'd never even heard of. So yeah, very uncommon, this one, and that is Dirt Tracks FX. Yeah, FX is in the title, meaning they utilised the Super FX chip, which means, you know, they tried to make a 3D game, which generally means it looks dreadful in 2024. However, as you've seen on screen now, as far as FX games go, this one probably looks about the best, right? I've got some real stinkers in my collection, and this is actually one that I won't mind trying out and playing for myself. So yeah, I'm going to give a little bit of credit here to the FX chip. This Sculptured Software 1995 release is a dirt bike racer. You can choose between 8 different racers with unique characteristics and 4 bikes ranging from 50cc to 500cc. And there's 22 tracks throughout to complete. Much as I mock the FX chip and their early attempts at 3D, like I say, comparatively, this isn't too bad at all. And yeah, one that I won't mind popping in the system to have a look at. Like a lot of later release games, especially Super FX chip later release games, it's very uncommon. Like I say, I'd not even heard of it until today. I can't find any listed or sold here in the UK. I think there was one sold in, I think it was Australia, for £125 or their equivalent of. So yeah, with me going for the full Super Nintendo set, finding games like this out in the wild is, yeah, fantastic, because I don't want to be in a position a few years from now where I'm really searching for games like this, because who knows when they're going to show up again. So yeah, absolutely delighted to have found this one. Right, okay, so now we're moving on to a couple of my favourite pickups of the day, and the first one is another Super Nintendo game, and that is Magic Boy. This platformer was developed by Blue Turtle and released on Super Nintendo in 1996, 3 years after its Amiga release, which probably explains why it's become such an uncommon game. The last sold listing I found of this was up to £150. You play as Hewlett, a wizard's apprentice, and with the Amiga version you accidentally open a hidden trapdoor and you're tasked with capturing your master's collection of crazy animals that have been set loose. On the SNES, however, whilst the gameplay remains the same, in this version of the story you use the wrong ingredient in a potion, and this time you turn your master into an elephant, and every creature within 100 miles you turn into a monster, and it's your job subsequently to then get those monsters and set the world to rights. This 2D platform adventure takes place over 4 worlds, each with 8 levels, totaling 32, with another 32 bonus levels, thus a total of 64 levels. There's a lot to keep you entertained here, and you have to beat them all utilising just your magic wand. Very average reviews, but listen, if you watch the channel you know that I absolutely love a 90s platformer. It's what I grew up playing as a kid. It's what made me fall in love with not only gaming but the Super Nintendo, which has now led me to this crazy journey that I'm on to complete the set. So yeah, these things always make me smile, and very, very happy to add Magic Boy to the Super Nintendo wall. And that will now take me to my final and favourite find of the day. This is a stone cold classic. This is a game that I thought I already owned, and I recently bought the sequel to it, and I was really excited to sort of like compare the two and display them next to each other on the Sega Mega Drive wall, and lo and behold, I couldn't find the original, and I don't know what had happened to it. I think maybe there was a time where I was concentrating purely on Super Nintendo, and I'm guessing here, but maybe a few years ago I spent a lot of money on a Super Nintendo game, and in order to offset it I probably sold a couple of my more valuable Mega Drive games at that time. But you know, as time's progressed, I love collecting for both 16-bit systems, and this classic is one that is a glaring omission from my collection, and that is OutRun. Originally a 1986 arcade release, this pseudo 3D driving game sees you take the seat of a Ferrari Testarossa convertible with now iconic gameplay and music, with your third-person perspective, and this game paved the way for so many games that later came. And yeah, there's just a certain charm about this game which I don't think's ever been met. I've got this as part of the Sega Ages collection on my Switch, and I still pop this on from time to time just to listen to that music, and yeah, it's just something very comforting and just perfect about this game. The game is divided into multiple stages which all sort of play seamlessly on the same track, and then at the end of each there's a checkpoint, and you have to get to that checkpoint within a certain amount of time. You can often choose to go left or right. The various different routes lead to various different degrees of difficulty, so there's a lot of replayability here, even if it doesn't appear so when you first put the cartridge in the system. Like I say, just delighted to finally have this back. As a collector, you know, you can often get seller's remorse, and I think through my early Mega Drive collecting, I had a couple of games that I let go, one of which was Castlevania, and the second one was this, and I'm delighted to have both back in my collection, now complete, now in better condition. So definitely scratches that itch, right, in terms of my seller's remorse. Absolutely delighted to have this, and delighted that I can now place this on my shelf next to OutRun Turbo and pop them both in the system whenever I feel like it. And yeah, what an absolutely fantastic event that was. You might remember at the start of the video, I said that sometimes when you go on a game hunt, things just work perfectly, and yeah, I think we can agree, right? This was just one of those sort of like meant to be occasions. When you get somewhere early, you make a sale, you got money in your hand, and then all this 16-bit goodness turns up. It definitely feels like one of them meant to be moments, and yeah, this is one of them game hunts that's going to live long in the memory. Let me know in the comments what your favourite game was that I picked up today, and if you've got any experience playing any of these more obscure titles. I often say on the channel that any day I can pick up a 16-bit goodness of a video game's a good day to me. Well, I think I added like 6 bits of 16-bit goodness today, so it's an especially good day, as you can see by the smile on my face. But as always, thank you very much for watching. Play your games, keep it retro. I'll see you all in a bit. Take care.
Retro Ghetto.
Lock into the retro ghetto. Come and have a look around the ghetto. We got Sonic and Staples settle. Lock into the retro ghetto.